I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job.
Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Everybody wants to live together. Why can't we live together?
Hello, all you melanated beauties, sun-kissed by God's lips. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm sipping power to pour you the truth. Go grab your cup. Let's fill it up.
All right. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm here, baby, live and in effect. And so we're here on the first day of October. Normally this would be fair time for all you Dallasites and Texans and some of you Oklahomans and Louisianans. We allow you to participate. But this year the fair is back, but we don't know if we'll be back because, you know, the Delta is still out here plaguing society. So is Lambda and Gamma and ineffective governors. What's up, Hot Wheels? And so we are here trying to make it through the first day of October, and we're expecting rain and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know what the fair is going to be like, but I do want to say I want to give a shout out to the designers who decided that skinny jeans were no longer appropriate. I am thankful, because even though I could wear them and I looked cute in them, they were uncomfortable as all heck. And so now we are wearing loose jeans. Now listen, let me say this to you. All y'all don't need to wear these loose cut up jeans. They're just not for everybody. Some of y'all you don't look good in the real skinny jeans, and you don't look good in the loose jeans, and you need to find a jean that is appropriate for your body type. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So please don't plague those of us that do go to the fair with these jeans. They're a sightly mess. We went through the skinny jean phase, and so we just don't want to see your fat backs and your Dunlaps hanging over at the fair. It's hard for people to eat that fried food when they're looking at a mess. So let's just keep that under wraps. All right, so that's your public announcement for State Fair attendance. There's a lot happening in the world. R. Kelly, who believed he could fly. I know he wish he could fly now, baby, because he has been convicted. Bill Cosby said he believes Aura was eroded, and all kinds of stuff is going on. South Lake Carroll, for those of you that are local or those of you that have been following South Lake Carroll, it has reemerged. See if we can't get that TikTok video where you can kind of get some insight as to why people are not trying to allow diversity and inclusion in South Lake Carroll in particular. Before we start, I want to talk about something that has been going on for I don't know how long, Lord, decades. Britney Spears, free Britney. There was a whole protest. Free Britney. We couldn't get no protest against R. Kelly, and he was sexually manipulating, mind screwing, and holding captive young girls. But we can get one for Britney's conservatorship. You know, it's always amazing to me how people will gather, protest, and get it in for someone who doesn't even know they breathe air. But they have, and they were successful. Britney is free of the conservatorship. Her father is no longer going to be the conservator. And so I just want to briefly talk about that because I know a lot of people are saying, well, that don't have nothing to do with me. And what does that mean anyway? I'm so glad you asked. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with you. Really what this is about is that she could not control her own money. She had a breakdown. And this is why I want to talk about this. Britney had a breakdown because of pain. And I often say pain makes people do strange things. And I say that, and often people kind of roll their eyes because they say I'm giving an excuse. I'm not giving an excuse. What I am doing is saying, listen, people are going through some things. People have a lot of hurt and pain. And Britney collapsed under the pressure of stardom and the pain of having her children removed by a judge who clearly did not know the whole story, because they never do. It's just chutes and ladders to them. It's stuff that's on paper. And I think about Britney Spears, and I think about Dwayne Wade's wife when Gabrielle Union, y'all know I'm not a fan, of her acting or her as a person, although I don't know her personally. I just don't like the chick. And, that's my prerogative. And it's not black hate, no tea, no shade. I just don't like her. I don't like her for a whole lot of reasons, but I'm just going to talk about one. And so when Dwayne Wade decided that the mother of his children could no longer see her children, the children that she gave him before he ran off with Gabrielle Union, because, he was fooling with other people, but then Gabby was the one that, made the whole thing, and he was talking about how he would come home and she'd be helping them with their homework. And all I could think at the time was, but you've been running around on this woman, and depression makes you check out some people, right? So then we say, oh, but you need to live for your kids. Well, sometimes people are just not able to do that because, like the world's different strokes for different folks. It's also different pain makes people react different ways. And then, he said she wasn't fit and took custody of his children. And they said the woman was, acting out and was running down the street screaming and hollering. And I reflect on Brittany. Brittany kind of the same thing. Well, this time what happened is instead of stealing her children and causing her to be homeless, which was Dwayne Wade's first wife's situation, her father stepped in and took control of her money. Now, this is why this conservatorship is so ridiculous, because I know y'all are wondering. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to touch this and I'm going to be gone. I'm going to get to other things like R. Kelly. When people have a conservatorship and they have someone else that controls their money, and by control, I mean they pay all the bills. Like Brittany could not make decisions for herself. She had to ask permission to spend the money and here's the key, that she was earning. She had to ask for permission to spend the money that she was earning. Because most people under a conservatorship are not able to work. They don't earn any money. And so that there's a person, a guardian, if you will, that steps in to assist. So those are the things that make you say, So we'll see what happens. But they removed the daddy, and the daddy is saying the person they put on there is unfit. And so now he's going to try to get re-added because they say he has taken a great deal of her money. They've said that he's taken a great deal of her money and that he has, in fact, spent some money. And, it's something like he was earning $6 million a year for controlling her money. Okay, well, that's it. I want to talk about Howard Stern. I'm going to see if we can't get the video pulled up of Howard Stern. But I'm going to do that in just a minute. Stay with me. This is Corey with the Black Tea Sip. You gods and goddesses, son kissed by God's lips. In a minute.
Now available, T.H. Moore's newest novel, titled I Am, follows a young African-American couple who are forced to pick up the pieces of their marriage after the violent loss of their young godson at the hands of a local white policeman. The loss sparks not only their community's anger, but also the rage of a vigilante who initiates a nationwide killing spree targeted at corrupt police officers. New York Times best-selling author Omar Tyree praises T.H. Moore's new novel as an audacious story and read. Dr. Christopher C. Irving, CEO of the Miller Institute for Leadership and Diversity in America, calls it a daring story. I Am by T.H. Moore, now available at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and at thmoore.com.
Do you want to find a stable job in a growing field? IT jobs such as network systems administrators, cybersecurity, programming, cloud, and computer systems analysts are expected to increase 25% by 2022. Texas Premier Technology Institute offers training for top certifications such as CompTIA, Cisco, and Microsoft in less than 12 weeks. And if you're unemployed or underemployed, you may qualify for free tuition. Contact TPTI at 1-888-490-TPTI or check them out on the web at tpti.us.
All right, and we're back. If you're just joining us, this is Corey with your Black Tea Sip. I want you to grab your cups. We're going to fill it up. We're going to talk about R. Kelly today. But before we get to that, some other things going on in our world. And so I want to talk about Howard Stern very briefly. Apparently, Howard Stern wrote this book. And in this book, he is really denouncing all of the shock jock things that he did. So those of you that are struggling, Howard Stern, why do I know that name? Well, you shouldn't really know him, but here we go. So Howard Stern came out with just, I mean, horrible things. He talked about black people. And I mean, he said things that would now, in cancel culture, I'd like to say it would get him canceled, but perhaps not. And I want to talk about cancel culture as the difference between white and black. So we're going to pull up this video, and I want you to watch this video. It's Howard Stern, Sherman Hemsley, Ted Danson. Okay? Let's roll the video, Angelo.
And Whoopi done wrote everything I'm going to say here tonight, so it's all right. Ain't that right, you smelly nigga?
I didn't write that.
Well, you is a smelly nigga. I got some more jokes for your New Year's Eve party there.
You're not tired of this.
And don't be racially offended, because Whoopi done wrote them for me, okay? Here we go.
Go ahead.
Black hole.
Black hole.
You're going to love this. Hey, look at that. What do I loves most about the Whoopi?
Oh,
yeah.
Such as great timing.
Hey, Robin, what does you call a black rocket scientist?
I don't know,
A
Ted.
nigga. Whoopi wrote it. Whoopi wrote it. Hey, did you happen to notice this?
No, what
this
is that?
This here's my mother, Mama Dancing. Why, she done working blackface, too.
She must be very proud.
Yeah.
Now I know you really love me, Ted. You the man.
I tell you, you the man. What done happened to Sherman's career? It's really over the end. I want you to give us a kiss, you smelly coghead coon. I love you.
May I say something here?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can say whatever you want, you smelly nigga. Whoopi wrote that.
That's it, Ted. You didn't know I was going to say that. Whoopi had no chance to write it. I don't accept that kind of language. You can call her whatever you want, but you don't talk to me that way or I'll leave.
Well, don't let the door hit you on your big black ass, mama, on the way out of here. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. Now, Whoopi, you is a filthy nigga.
Saw was a skit that he did several years ago with Sherman Hemsley, and I think Sherman Hemsley passed away in 2018. And I choose to believe that the reason Sherman Hemsley pulled this step and fetch it routine is because he was broke and needed the money. But that doesn't have anything to do with Robin Quivers, who said you can talk to Whoopi any kind of way you want to, but you can't talk to me like that. Well, we cut it short because I had all the N words I can have, and that was actually the total clip that I sent Angelo because I wanted to cut it. I didn't want it to go on. I think the backstory there, you didn't see where Ted Danson comes in, but Ted Danson used to date Whoopi Goldberg, and she quit him. He was living in her house and living on her money because Whoopi Goldberg was really making a lot of money during this time with a lot of Broadway shows and stand-up, and she was acting and she was producing and executive producing, which means you put your money in to get the film made, and so you get a huge chunk of the money out. So I think that's important for you to realize. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's this book, and a couple of years ago, he was on The View. We have that clip where he's on The View. Okay, I'm going to play this clip and I'm going to tie it together for you. It's Coy.
I don't know what you
I said this to you during the break. I grew up, I was in college in the 80s.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was in college in the 80s, and I found your show so offensive. You used.
Thank you.
That's what I figured, right? You were a shock jock.
Shocking.
You were shock jock. You used the N-word a lot. You
So
said,
I
really?
I used the N-word.
Yeah, you did.
Wait a second. Hold on.
I do.
before you
I
say
remember
that.
it.
Whoopi, hold on.
Wait.
No, we had a guy on from the Ku Klux Klan.
Yes.
Who very freely used the N-word.
Yeah.
And my belief was, hey, say it out in the open.
Yes.
And I didn't use the N-word. Let's be very clear.
That's
not my thing.
Robin would have killed you.
It was something that was batted around on your show. I'll rephrase it.
And by the way, I make no apology for that.
No, and you
because-
didn't. You didn't then.
Because I don't like people who live under a rock. I said to the guy, let me hear what you're saying, and let's
Yes.
confront it, and let's talk about
And
it.
you also said some things about Gabby Sidibe.
I said a ton of things about people.
But my point
Yes.
is, I found it so offensive that I was turned off by it.
Oh,
But
that's not
and
good.
crass. But you're a very different person today, and I loved your book.
Thank you.
And I believe people evolve. And
I do too, and that was part of the point in writing the book. I am a big proponent of psychotherapy and a good, loving relationship.
And yeah, there has been a lot of personal growth for me, and I think it is possible to change. And I think the show is a lot more balanced. I'm not going to say the show isn't crazy and wild, but we've also opened it up to some new ideas where people, some really fantastic people, are coming in and feel safe enough to be interviewed and get into some real conversation.
So now, if you're just joining us, I'm talking about Howard Stern. A couple of years ago, he did this View interview, and several years ago, he's literally calling Whoopi Goldberg a filthy nigger. And Robin Quivers, that's on his show, and I don't know how she lives with herself, Robin Quivers, that's on the show, she says, he calls her a filthy nigger. He literally says, don't let the door hit you in your big black behind, but that's not the word he used. And he's now on The View saying, I didn't say that. And Whoopi sits there and takes it when Whoopi knows he called her a filthy nigger. And I'm not talking about AH, I'm talking about ER. You know, when the word ends in AH, we kind of like, but when it's ER, we're like, oh, so we should be at the point. Well, the book comes out, and it's, this is a couple of years ago, but Donald Trump Jr. posts a tweet about it and celebrates him. And then, because it's associated with the cancer that is Donald Trump, I told y'all he will not go away. Because of that recent tweet where he uncovers it, and I'm saying uncovers because they covered it all up. They swept it under the rug. They didn't tell anybody. Once that happens, then he's like, oh no, wait a minute, I never said that. But clearly he did. And so he says, I make no apologies. And I want to know, in the era of cancel culture, because you have Meghan McCain on there, and Meghan McCain says, and I just cut the video short, but she says, oh, well, because she wants to kind of dilute and dampen the other black woman who's Afro-Hispanic. She wants to dilute the fact that she says she found it offensive and is trying to discuss that, right? And so Meghan McCain says, well, I love the show. And my mom's Cindy McCain, and she loves the show. And so, what happens to cancel culture? So the issue now amongst black Twitterers is whether or not Howard Stern is going to be kicked off of I think it's Sirius Radio because of cancel culture. And so here's what I want to lead with while we're going to talk about Aura, and we're going to talk about South Lake Carroll, and we're going to talk about this government shutdown. I want to know, why is it that Howard Stern can be allowed to remain when Kevin Hart made some statements about if his son was discovered to be homosexual, he would hit him in the head with a dollhouse. At the time, people thought it was funny. Years later, it's not funny, and Kevin Hart has to apologize and apologize and apologize. And he was not allowed to host the Academy Awards. And they told him to apologize again. He said, look, I've apologized, I'm not apologizing anymore. But they canceled him. Why is it that you can't say something about gay people, but you can live with saying something about black people? I mean, the only thing that I really remember is the Seinfeld man, the guy that played Kramer, and he went on a N-word rant. Remember that? And he started saying, there's one, because he was being heckled. And it's really because he couldn't handle it, and he just went for the jugular because that's all he had. But why is it? Why is it that I can get pulled over, have 7 AR-15s pulled on me because they thought I was an underage minor prostitute? I talked about it last week, the harrowing details of what me and my boyfriend went through. Why is that okay? Because they thought they were rescuing a runaway that has been sex trafficked as a minor. They thought that it was okay to hold me at gunpoint with AR-15s. It's okay to say, no, I never said that, when we found the clip that he actually did several times out of his mouth and disparage Whoopi, and Whoopi sits there. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to move on. The reason Whoopi took it is because when she came out against President Bush, he had her completely blackballed, and she made no money his entire presidency. Well, let me say this. From the time she made the statement, she had a show, and on that show, she used to go into the hotel. She was a hotel manager or owner, and on that show, she had this place called the Nappy Dugout. And there, she would just make lots of statements, and she talked about Bush on the regular. And they blackballed her. And she didn't work from the time that show went off the air. It was on NBC. And she lost her show, and then she didn't work again. Cancel culture. So I'm just really wondering who really gets canceled. I think it's clear that the people that get canceled are not always the ones that should. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. This is Quiet with the Black Tea Sip. Stay with me because we are going to unpack. I've got a timeline, courtesy of the Associated Press, that I want to share with you about R. Kelly. You know, Aura. And I really want to unpack this thing with R. Kelly. This is Quiet with the Black Tea Sip. In a minute.
Nourished skin is healthy skin. Simply Ardor skincare products provides luxurious nourishment for your body. Indulge in rich scrubs and body butters and top it off with our sensational and unique aromatic lines of sprays and roll-on fragrances. It's simple and lovely. Simply Ardor. Love is real. Just spread it.
Yeah, if you came to get some real music with a real vibe, then you came to the right spot. You know what it is. 99.9. It's DJ Candy Can. Here with Loose Cannons. Letting y'all know we about to do this like a fresh pair of Lokes on Easy-E. Baseline shade.
Let me put my shades on. It's cooler than being cool. Ice cold. Let me put my shades on. Yeah. It's cooler than being cool. Two frozen shades on. I guess you get what you asked for. You can't bullshit the matador. I see the sunset, I see the shore. To the core concrete, I go hard when it doors. When it rains, pain. Club a lane, no shame. Cock back game, bop gun, go bang. Top hat cane, come a bun, 2 chains. Looking like a Millie, having fun, Lil Wayne. I've been this way since I paid for my school grades. By the pool, sipping Kool-Aid. We shake in the finger waves. Play dates in the backseat, bitch, I'm on my cool J. Take pride in surviving the stakes as I take the ride. Just hoping don't no break supply. First to rise, I want the whole cake, the pie. The lights are blinding, hold up, let me put my shades on. It's cooler than being cool. Ice cold. Let me put my shades on. Yeah. It's cooler than being cool. 2 frozen shades on.
My hands, pockets in the spliffs, farther to your flow. Wards in the cliffs, I push off the cliff just to see what your falls like. Just to see what your balls like. I drag nuts, can't carry too heavy. Busting down your walls like Katrina did the levee. Knocking in your box, Capri Chevy 99.9 UMG. If today was today, then tonight we should play. I clear up my evening, hit me up around 8. I'm giving one dolo shot. Down and come up like a pogo hop. Rocker wearing down to the polo shop. Friday night lights let my mojo pop. Better get your photos copped. TMZ flashing in the photos. What's cooler than being cool?
Let me put my shades on. What's cooler than being cool? Ice cold. Let me put my shades on. You didn't know what you was getting. It's Big Papa, Big Pimpin'. I'm a showstopper, helicopter, go Venice. Flying over suckers screaming, this is no scrimmage. This is no gimmick, no Instagram image. Papa's got a brand new bag and I'm in it. Looking for my innocence. I ain't seen a trace of it since I was 10 and convinced that my shit was the shit. This moment forth, I own to set the course. Avoiding that dead end one way. Soak up the sun rays. Sit and take a minute to sunbathe. See, I don't drown, I get down and ride waves. Kanye the coach, in case close it's over. Dirt off my shoulders, change clothes to show ya. Supreme flow, need a queen, I'm King Cobra. Toast to not leaving here sober. Let me put my shades on. It's cooler than being cool. Ice cold. Let me put my shades on. Yeah. It's cooler than being cool.
All right, and we're back. This is Court, the Black Tea Sip. If you were just listening to that, that was Loose Cannons. I've known that brother for a long time, and he and I talked. I am accepting indie music. If you know any independent artists that want their music played on the show, then have them get in touch with me. You can email me at talk, because that's what I do, blacktsip@gmail.com, and Angelo will get your music on. Now listen, now I've had some people send me some stuff, and I haven't really had a chance to go through all of it, but if you use the N-word more like Howard Stern just did in that clip, then look here, we can't play your music, baby. And look here, boo-boo. We're not going to be able to do that. I mean, now I'm all for trying to help independent artists get my 13-year-old son has been making beats and rapping since he was 9 or 10. We are about celebrating black music, black people, and not just black people, just good music. If you got good music and you're an indie artist, then we're going to play your music. But we do want to play black folk music because, well, we black. I mean, Angelo, he's just black in his heart, but we just take him. He get like a courtesy black card. So with that, I want to talk about R. Kelly, and I want to talk about South Lake Carol, because today's show is really about the levels and the effects of racism. And the reason I'm saying the levels and the effects is because I experienced something harrowing I think it was 2 weeks ago yesterday, where we were held at gunpoint, and they thought I was an underage sex trafficked runaway. But the other thing is, if you're trying to rescue me, why are you terrorizing me? But then I played a clip by Howard Stone where Robin Quivers said, "You're not going to talk to me like that. If you talk to me like that, I'm going to leave." But then she turned around in the same breath and said, "Well, you can call Whoopi whatever you want to." Wait a minute, hold on now. What happened to the sisterhood? Is this every man for himself as far as how we talk to one another? I mean, what's really going on? So I say that to say, you had a lot of young women that were terrorized, sexually manipulated, sex trafficked, misused, abused for sport with R. Kelly. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that because there's no one that is more disrespected. The most disrespected creature on the planet is the black woman. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've said that, I've heard that, and I've lightly agreed with it. But I used to say, well, the black man is equally, if not more, disrespected. But I think the reason that statement was made by the great late Malcolm X is because when you think about the black woman, you think about you equate that and you try to assign equity. Like, can we make determinations about the black woman and black womanhood and white fragility? And I'm talking about white fragility in aspects of white women. Now, my mother loves the Westerns. Lord have mercy, she be on our nerves with the Westerns. I'm talking about, when I say Western, I am talking about Rifleman, baby. Gun smoke. Like, that is what's going on in the house. Like, my children, they like the theme music. Like, they harmonize with it. Like, my kids know the Rawhide song. Now, it's okay that I know the Rawhide song because my grandmothers used to play it. But they were my grandmothers, okay? No, my mama, she gets it in, baby. So my mama says, Lord, these women they just trained them they just raised them to be so stupid. Well, were they trained or raised to be stupid on film, or were they trying to paint them as helpless and demure so that white fragility assigned to white womanhood would hold its own independent place? And black women, because we were in the fields in this country, picking cotton and plaiting hair and cooking food and raising and nursing babies. So it wasn't quite the same. You put a great divide between black womanhood and white womanhood, which was assigned a certain amount of white fragility. And I don't say that to be unkind. I'm being very honest. When we start talking about white fragility, we're talking about being able to protect white women, holding them on a pedestal in a way that says they're too fragile, they're too delicate, and so we must protect them at all costs. And so my question is, why do black young women, me, when they thought I was 16-year-old runaway sex trafficked prostitute, I ain't gonna let that go, why is it that we don't get the same? And I think the reason R. Kelly was able to get away with so much so long is because we don't get the same. And we don't get the same for a lot of reasons. So I want to talk about the fact that for 25 years, they had heard whispers and stories, rumors, if you will, that R. Kelly was the devil. that he had young girls, that he mistreated women. And people say, oh, Robert was so sweet. You know, I think if you had a certain amount of love in the home, you weren't running away from something, you didn't seem troubled, damaged, or broken, then, you know, he didn't want you. So there were some women that were able to escape. But I remember reading this book. It's called Daddy's Little Girl. I read that book in one night. It wasn't that long. It was like 91 pages. So, you know, you could read that in a few hours. And so Daddy's Little Girl was a very explicit, detailed rendition of her experience with R. Kelly. And I'm saying it's a rendition in part because there were certain things where she said, I can't remember. I have gaps. She has memory gaps because she was drugged regularly. Now, this is going to be explicit, so get the baby somewhere and put them away, because I'm about to get into it, right? Because, you know, that's what I do. Go grab your cup, baby. I'm going to fill it up. So R. Kelly, in this book, where this girl writes, she talks about how she got hooked up with him, and he had her in a very nice place at a hotel, and they went shopping, and she, you know, and so let's be honest. There, you know, BET kind of messed us up. You know, I mean, you know, no tea, no shade. But it kind of messed us up because when we started seeing the things that the rappers were renting, yes, leasing, renting, borrowing. Oprah Winfrey was the only one that said, wait a minute, they're not buying those jewels on the red carpet? And the lady was like, oh, heavens, no. They borrow them from, you know, whoever was like the big diamond person at the, I mean, we're not talking about K Jewelry. I mean, we're talking about the girl from Mulholland Falls, that movie where she was up for an Academy Award, and what is his name? Stuart Weitzman did a shoe, and he encrusted it in diamonds. I know this because I have like the knockoff version for the shoe. Like Stuart Weitzman did the shoe again, but he didn't put some Swarovski crystals like rhinestones on it. But the shoe was fabulous. Like it really ain't in style no more, but I'm holding on to it, praying that it come back. So these were the kinds of things that were happening. But those shoes were bonded, they were insured, just like the jewels that they wore around their neck. Oprah was the one that said, wait a minute, I thought they were buying them. No. So BET messed us up, and MTV, MTV wasn't showy, it was BET because, you know, it was black folk doing black folk, and I'm talking about FOKE, stuff. That's the technical term, black stuff. And we saw that and wanted that, aspired to that. You had Little Kim in the early 90s talking about the Chanel boots and, you know, Adrian Venedini. And so we were like, oh, I want the Adrian Venedini. I want the Chanel boots. We wanted that kind of stuff. And so people started doing things to get them. So hooking up with R. Kelly meant she could now get the things that she wants, the things she aspired to, the things she's looking at on TV. And so that, too, will hold you in bondage, trying to get things that you should not, could not, and cannot have. There's a girl right now who posted a receipt that everybody's talking about on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook. She posted a receipt. Angelo, the receipt was $737 and some change because they ate a steak. It was a tomahawk steak, and then it was wrapped in gold leaf. Edible gold leaf, right? And they had the steak, and then they had some mac and cheese, and so somebody was saying, oh, he went home hungry. Well, everybody's commenting on it because I'm not going to give you her Twitter name because let's leave the girl a shred of dignity. I'm going to do that for that young sister because she left herself none. So I'm going to step in there. Hey, as the old folks say, I'm going to stand in the gap, baby. So she eats this very expensive, you have to understand what a tomahawk steak is. A tomahawk steak will feed, well, if I'm eating with you, 3 people. It's a lot of doggone meat. It's like it's like the Flintstone when he orders and they come and they bring him the Tyrannosaurus Rex side of beef and they put it on, I'm just saying it's beef. I mean, I know it's not beef, it's dinosaur, but I don't know what else to call it, so just go with me. And, they put it on there and it tilts the car over. That's what a tomahawk steak looks like. And this steak is wrapped in gold leaf and it's very expensive. And then they have these other things. They have $18 drinks, and the drink it looked nasty to me. But the bill was $737, and the girl says, break his pockets. Now, there's a couple of things in there because I'm all about my brothers. Why would you want to break his pockets if this is someone you care about? Or are you one of those people that we see that, are coming out? on in these articles where they're talking about X% of women have gone out on a date just to eat. Maybe she was one of those. I do not know, but I do know that it is that kind of mentality that drives a young woman to be held as a hostage and a sex slave by R. Kelly. So going back to this little girl, Daddy's Little Girl, and I don't even think you can find the book anymore, because as soon as it was released, my soror called me and she and I downloaded it, read it, and then compared. No, we were on the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning. No, shh, don't tell nobody. Don't tell nobody I do that kind of stuff. And so I'm reading the book, and the girl is talking about these horrific things that happened to her. Now, my soror, Heather April Demise Smith Vanderwan Douglas, she gonna be mentioned, you call my whole name. Yep, got a lot of them. Lives in Chicago. And she told us many, many years ago that was a rumor, that was a well-known rumor about Aura, that he manipulated and controlled women sexually. This is a long-standing rumor that Aura had sex slaves. So one begs the question, why is it that Aura was able to get these women? So, if you hear that Robert Sylvester Kelly, because that's his name, I mean, he going penitentiary now, so let's just call him by his government name, Robert Sylvester Kelly, is sex trafficking and all of these things. And maybe they don't know about sex trafficking then, because we weren't really hip to sex trafficking, 20, 25 years ago. I'm not saying it wasn't going on. I'm not saying that it wasn't real. I'm saying that wasn't part of what we were talking about. It happened in different parts of the world, and it hadn't permeated down here, and I'm talking about the continental United States, like it had in other places, Colombia and Ecuador and China and Mexico, which is right next door. We weren't hip to sex trafficking. So R. Kelly literally has ties with the gangs. So you have like the vice lords, you have the conservative vice lords, you have the Bloods, the Crips. I know all this because, listen, I am an informational gatherer of the world. I embrace things and information. I'm like a sponge. And then I take my time to see it through to come to you, my dear brethren. So we know all of this is happening. And I want to talk about the fact that for more than 25 years, there were accusations. And the federal court trial in New York that recently lasted for 7 weeks did in fact find him guilty of charges including sexual exploitation of a child. Do y'all remember that video that came out 12, maybe 14 years ago, 15 years ago, and where R. Kelly, was called a golden shower, urinated on the young girl? Y'all remember that? And it says that so that's exploitation of a child, to film it, to put it out. Bribery, racketeering, sex trafficking involving 5 victims. Now, sex trafficking means you took them from one place to another, state to state. And so they remove the women from the state so that they won't be able to get home to cry out for help and be aided. So that becomes the sex trafficker's way. I know a little bit more about sex trafficking now because I was accused of being an underage, sex trafficked, minor, prostitute. They thought I was 16. Look, in the words of my dear friend Judge Kim Cooks, who has a show on Fishbowl Radio Network. Hey, Kim. She said, girl, they thought you were underage, minor? Well, it's a compliment in there somewhere, isn't it? But that's because she's nuts. But to that point, I know a little bit more, and I know that the reason that it's sex trafficking goes from state to state, across state lines, and then you have to put them in a position where they can't help themselves, and usually they shoot them up with heroin or some other dope, and they sex traffic these girls. And then the girls that are very, very young, they're able to manipulate them, which is what R. Kelly did. So he was found guilty of these charges. What I thought was really interesting is that he faces a sentencing coming up from 10 years to life. That's a big gap. The racketeering charge, it's the same charge that they tried to get Al Capone for racketeering. I thought it was interesting that he didn't have any IRS tax fraud case. That might be in the future. So I wanna do this timeline of R. Kelly a little bit. I think we could kind of break this timeline down. and talk about R. Kelly, and I want to talk about how he got where he is. You know, like, how did he get here? You know, like, it's almost like a Deborah Cox song. Nobody's supposed to be here, but Aura is. Aura is here. He's here for it, baby. And so let's go all the way back to the beginning. R. Kelly is born on, y'all know y'all say, ooh, you going all the way back. No, I think it's important. R. Kelly is born on January 8th, 1967. You know, Robert Sylvester Kelly. And he's born in Chicago. He's 3 of 4 children, and his mother's a school teacher, Joanne Kelly. Very little known about the father. Really nothing, that he had one, because we know he didn't hatch from an egg. You would think it might be probable, but clearly it's impossible. 1975, he began singing in the church, and around that time, there are years of sexual abuse by an adult relative that starts, and that's according to his 2012 memoir. He says he was sexually abused. And then I just want to point out that oftentimes we hear from a psychological standpoint that those that are abused become abusers, whether it's domestic violence or sexual. People tend to exhibit the behavior that was enacted on them. 1979, he witnesses a 12-year-old girl being raped. It messes with him psychologically. In 1983, his mother moves the family from the Chicago housing projects and enrolls him in the prestigious Kenwood Academy. I think that's important because R. Kelly is illiterate. He cannot read and write. So one, how did he get in this prestigious Kenwood Academy? And how was he able to remain? If you're liking this show and you want me to continue with this timeline, go ahead and give me a like. Not just a reaction. I need you to actually like the button. Give me a heart that's going to last, not one of those that floats in the air. This is Coy with the Black Tea Sip. I'll be right back. I'm going all the way back from 1967 to today. Stay with me for the R. Kelly Unpack. In a minute.
Hey, this is Tony.
This is DeAndre.
Hey, this is Makai.
And this is Alec, host of The Final Drive.
Broadcasting live each week on Thursday at 3 to 5 from FBRN Studios at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas.
Log on to hear the latest and greatest news around the NFL and the sports world.
So be sure to log on each week on Thursday at 3 to 5 to catch The Final Drive.
So jump in for all things NFL here at Fishbowl Radio Network, The Final Drive, your official source of all things NFL.
Jump in. Fishbowl Radio Network wants to congratulate the 99% Radio Network. This month's Show of the Month on Fishbowl Radio Network. Log on every Wednesday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time and start streaming the 99% Radio Network on Fishbowl Radio Network, the most listened to radio network of its kind.
Hi, this is Diane Marion Eunice, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. For the past 9 years, I have worked with over 300 couples in the areas of sexual health, communication, and conflict resolution. If you are interested in rebuilding connection and intimacy with your partner, please contact me today. I can be reached at 682-201-8175, or you can email me at diane@letstalkrelationships.org, or visit my website at www.letstalkrelationships.org. And remember, you can't heal if you refuse to deal.
We are so excited to announce that Antrese Jones Productions has a new TV series coming out called Blocked. Blocked is a suspenseful drama surrounding a young lady named April who is at war with herself, and with a cold heart, she shatters anyone who tries to mend any brokenness from her past. Life itself has dragged her to hell and back, and she's going to make sure that God himself feels her wrath. Blocked is a nail-biter as it confronts many societal issues like church culture, molestation, hypocrisy, judgmental friends, and the inner turmoil of finding your own identity. Matter of fact, we have Antrese Jones, who is the director, the producer, and the writer of this brand new series in the studio with us today.
Hey everybody, it's me, Antrese Jones. Connect with us. Follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, IG, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I look forward to connecting with you. Stay tuned for my new TV series, Blocked, coming soon to streaming services. Yes!
Fishbowl Radio Network. FBRN.US. Your voice matters. Jump in.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job.
Tell me why. Why can't we live together?
kissed by God's lips. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm sipping power to pour you the truth. Go grab your cup. Let's give it up.
And we're back. This is Coy with your black tea sip, where we sip power to pour truth. And I think that's what I'm doing today. If you think that that's what I'm doing, give me a like, a thumbs up. Let me know. Holla if you hear me. Let me know that you're here. So we're talking about R. Kelly, Aura. But I said since he's now convicted and he's going to be a number, we should use his government name, Robert Sylvester Kelly. And so I started talking about that he came into the world in 1967, and now we are at 1983. We've gotten up from 67 to 1983, where his mother moves her family out of the Chicago projects, and he enrolls him in the prestigious Kenwood Academy. And I talked about the fact before the break that I found that very interesting because he's illiterate. He really he can't read and write effectively. So you say, well, how does he write the songs? What had long been rumored, and my oldest child's godparents have been in the music industry for 2 decades. What had long been rumored, and I was in the music business for like 15 minutes. What has always been rumored is that he had somebody else write the words. He would say them, somebody else would write them, and he could compose. You know, so kind of like a prodigy, if you will. So 1984. In 1984, he performs, he starts performing, and he would mimic Stevie Wonder, and he would sing Ribbon in the Sky. And he does that at a talent show. And so years later, he starts performing in the subway stations with his keyboard, and oftentimes he would pretend that he was blind to avoid arrest. So he learns to manipulate the law. Let's go to, because I don't want to be here all day. 1990. I think that's when, we can really start to see a difference. So performing in the subways, trying to make a name for himself. In 1990, his R&B group wins the MGM $100,000 grand prize on the show Big Break. Y'all remember that show, Big Break? I had to look it up. I was like, oh yeah, I remember Big Break. I didn't really watch it, but I remember it being advertised. So, a Jive Records executive, Wayne Williams, discovers Kelly singing at a barbecue, and that's how he gets to Big Break. He's just out here singing, trying to do whatever he can. I mean, because he can't read and write, so he can't do much, right? So he's got to make it in the music business. No tea, no shade. January 1992, R. Kelly and public announcement debuts Born into the 1990s. Album was released the following year. It goes platinum. So it's very difficult for artists to go gold. Most of them go double wood or glass. This one goes platinum. So he's making it. 1993, everybody remembers this album, 12 Play is released. And it sells more than 5 million copies. Hit singles include, remember, Sex Me and Bump and Grind? Some of y'all still playing that. Y'all don't care he's been convicted of sex trafficking. I mean, you feel like that about Michael Jackson, too. Do what you do, baby. Who am I to judge? August 31st, 1994, Kelly is 27 years old. He marries the 15-year-old singer Aaliyah D. Houghton, in a secret ceremony. The marriage is annulled months later because of Aaliyah's age. Now, I'm going to pause right there for the cause, babies, because where are her parents? They say that she had a fake birth certificate and a fake driver's license, which he could clearly afford. But Aaliyah was pregnant. I'm not speaking ill of the dead, because we all know the story. And we know now from the documentary that R. Kelly was having what they call sexual relations with Aaliyah, and she was 13 at the time. He married her 2 years later. She was pregnant. The mother and the father raised the daughter after Aaliyah's death. You remember the little girl that was walking behind the casket? That's all I'm gonna say about that, baby. September 1994, Aaliyah's debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. Wonder how they came up with that title. Kelly produced it. It goes platinum. And then later, 7 years later, Aaliyah at the age of 22 dies in a in a plane crash. Mainly because she didn't want to leave anything behind and have it on another plane or a helicopter that was coming. She wanted all of her clothes, her jewelry, her furs, and everything, all the stuff from the video shoot that they did in the Bahamas. She wanted all that stuff with her. It weighed down the plane too heavy, and the plane crashed. I don't know if y'all know that, but I'm here. I'm here to educate. I'm all about education. So, remember it was a big thing between Damon Dash and R. Kelly. There was a little fight going on. And they kept it under wraps. 1996, the release of the third album, R. Kelly, and it incorporates Rockland Records' song, I Believe I Can Fly. That's not the tune. I was a little pitchy, but y'all know what I'm saying. It's a huge hit. He then marries, so he is now, he's 29. He marries the 22-year-old dancer, Andrea Lee, and they go on to have 3 children, Joanne, Jaya, and Robert Jr. Okay. Now remember, she was on the show, one of them music reality shows. Not Love and Hip Hop. Something else. Because you remember Mayate Prince's ex-wife was on there, and they were talking about how their husbands did things to them. Y'all remember, it was like a whole Oprah special, but they did it on reality TV. I don't remember the name of it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So 1997, Tiffany Hawkins files a complaint alleging sexual battery and harassment when she was a minor. This is in 1997, February 18th. 1996, I Believe I Can Fly comes out, and he marries a year before. Well, we don't know if it's a year before because I don't have a date. He marries Andrea Lee. Now, she's got to hear these things. And from the documentary, she talks about there would be women in the house and rooms she was not allowed into. Now you say, well, you're a grown woman. 22, not grown. Let me tell you why 22 is not really grown. I mean, you make grown-up decisions, and you can go into the military at 18 and get blown out of hell. But the truth of the matter is that the human brain does not fully reach its peak growth until you're 25. Did you know that? So there's something to be said about 21 years old and drinking, and 22-year-old and getting married. I'm not saying that people shouldn't do it. I'm saying you still got some brain growing to do, and so you may not be making the best decisions at that age. And so that very well could be the case with Ms. Lee, and I think we need to give her a little bit of credence, even though I, too, wonder how you could be married to a man and living in a house, and there are women around. Child, it's more than my understanding. So January 1998, Tiffany Hawkins, now I just mentioned, the Hawkins lawsuit is reportedly settled for $250,000, $250,000. The lawsuit is settled. Now, when they settle these lawsuits, they have you sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. So you can't really talk about what happened to you. Not being able to talk about it silences the person who receives the settlement, and that person cannot help or talk about it in a way that may prevent someone else from going through the same thing. So then you say, well, wait a minute, she just took the money. Well, now, come on, we sip power to pour truth. Here's the truth on that. Do you want to drag all of your business out for the world to see, to criticize you, to blame you, to talk about you, to, all of the things that were happening then? Or do you just try to take the money and go on about your business because you don't want the lawsuit to drag on forever, and then he may be vindicated by a jury of his peers that believe that he can fly? So I don't know that we should punish every single person that was involved. What we need to look at is the enablers that allowed him to get to these people. Aha, and there is the rule. I'm going on. November 1998, album R, y'all said Aura, comes out, and it hit stores and eventually sells 7 million copies. And that's not including all the bootlegs, because I know I had some bootlegs in my convertible Mustang. Those of you that remember me, y'all remember that? The convertible Mustang had the Bose speakers. We had a good time. November 2000, album TP2.com debuts at number 1. August 2001, Tracy Sampson sues R. Kelly, alleging their sex was illegal under Illinois law because he was in a position of authority. Case is reportedly settled out of court. Non-disclosure, you don't know how much. February 8, 2002, Chicago Sun-Times. Now, this is where it gets interesting, babies. Buckle up your seatbelts. It's about to be a bumpy ride. Chicago Sun-Times reports that it received a videotape showing Kelly having sex with a minor and that police had begun investigating related allegations 3 years earlier. Now, let's go back 3 years. Let's just count. 2001, 2000, 1998. The lawsuit was settled in 1998. Things that make you go, So when they report there was a minor and they began their investigation in 1998, this is now 2002, the girl and her parents deny the relationship. The same day Kelly performs at the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. Well, Salt Lake City is Mormon country, and they believe in marrying and having sex with underage girls, so that's appropriate. June 5th, 2002, Kelly indicted in Chicago on child porn charges stemming from the sex tape. He pleads not guilty and is released on bail. 2002. Y'all remember that videotape. January 2003, Kelly is arrested at a Florida hotel on child pornography charges after investigators say they found photos of him with a girl. Charges are later dropped after a judge rules police didn't have a warrant. Well, now ain't that something? So now we have these rumors going back on R. Kelly from 2003 all the way back to 1994, the whole thing about Aaliyah. Okay, all right. Yeah, y'all can do math. I won't insult you by trying to add or subtract. So he's arrested in 2003. February 18, 2003, the album Chocolate Factory is released. Immediate success. Boom, fluctuates. 2005 album 2TP.3, it says TP3, released, hits #1. September 2005, Andrea Kelly asked for an order of protection, accusing R. Kelly of hitting her when she asked for a divorce. Now, she's only asking for an order of protection because she says he hit her. She later talks about the fact that she was mentally and sexually manipulated and that R. Kelly was literally like starving her out in the house while he had a harem of women in different locked rooms. Psychologically, she's been abused, and and she talks about the psychological abuse and the fear. Okay, that's February 2006. Carrie Kelly says his brother offered him $50,000 and a record deal to say he was the person in the sex video. That came out again in the documentary for R. Kelly. We all lined up and watched that for days. And that was in 2006. So we from 1994 to 2006, nothing's happened. Now I want to pause right there. These rumors, I'm hearing this stuff in Dallas. I know these people are hearing this stuff in Chicago. What kind of conversations are we not having with our children? Because these children were actually going out. One girl said that she went to the courthouse and skipped school. She was 14 years old. R. Kelly comes out. She decides she's going to talk to him because she believes that if he's getting released from court, he couldn't have possibly done it. And it's all a lie for these people to enrich themselves. And she then goes off with R. Kelly and is later abused. Now, I'm not blaming the mama because, you don't have control of your kids. You send your kids to school, they back out the door. But are we not having real conversations about our children, like this man is a snake, the devil incarnate, and all he wants to do? We need to be having real conversations, and apparently they don't have those kind of conversations in Chicago. But we sure have them down here in Dallas, at least in my house, and that I know for a fact. We talk about everything, maybe some of the stuff my kids don't want to talk about, but I talk about it all because it's a very strange place. It's such a strange place that I was accused of being a sex trafficked minor. Prostitute, I'm 49 years old, they thought I was 16. Okay, that's enough of that. So now here we are, $50,000 to say he was the person in the video. That was 2006. May 29th, 2007, Double Up is released and later hits #1. The reason I started this out talking about cancel culture is if this had been today, R. Kelly would have been canceled, right? I mean, they wouldn't have played songs anymore. People on the radio would have said, well, now the song didn't hurt nobody. I mean, because that's what they're saying. But this man was allowed from 1994, where we had clear rumors of him, to 2008, where they knew that he was messing with young girls, and they did nothing. Here is the criticality. Not only did they know that he was messing with young girls, but they knew that it was rumored that they were being held against their will. And they did nothing. All right, I got to take a quick break. I got to pause for the calls. This is Corey with the Black Tea Sip. Stay with me. We are in 2008. And we got to go to 2021. In a minute, baby, go grab your
Do you
cup.
want to
I'm gonna
find a
fill it up.
stable job in a growing field? IT jobs such as network systems administrators, cybersecurity, programming, cloud, and computer systems analysts are expected to increase 25% by 2022. Texas Premier Technology Institute offers training for top certifications such as CompTIA, Cisco, and Microsoft in less than 12 weeks. And if you're unemployed or underemployed, you may qualify for free tuition. Contact TPTI at 1-888-490-TPTI or check them out on the web at tpti.us.
For nearly 30 years, we've had the experienced leadership of Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. Now, it's our duty to ensure that we continue toward progress. I am Jane Hope Hamilton. As a wife, a mother, and for a time a single mother, I know firsthand the challenges that our families face, and I know what it takes to get things done for our families and our community. As the state director for President Biden and former chief of staff on Capitol Hill, I fought for our community to have affordable health care, good paying jobs, and quality education. For years, I have also gone toe-to-toe with those who try to push us back and knock us down. When corrupt Republicans pass discriminatory voting laws that violate our rights, I fought back, went to court, and won. And when an out-of-control cop beat me to the ground, I refused to be intimidated. I stood up for myself, and the charges were dropped because I demanded justice. In this climate, as we face so much uncertainty, I am being encouraged to run in Congressional District 30. And as I consider it, I'd like to hear from you. Together, we can move our communities and our families forward.
Louis on my eyes, you got them days. Took you a whole year to bounce back. Took me a couple days. You hitting licks, I'm getting rich. I'm hitting C notes. Watch what you say. I got a pick. I can show you what he know. He can do tricks. He with the shit. Do what I tell him to. If he get at you, I plead the fifth. I didn't tell him to. I hit the block. The block was hot. I had to drop the top. Remember the name. Never forget the face. I'm coming back. Won't now. Go get your phone now. Yeah. Won't now. Go get your phone now. You should watch me shine. Look like I hit the lotto. I be on my grind. Bitches think I hit the lotto. You should watch me shine. Look like I hit the lotto. Bitches think I'm lying. Nah, I ain't hit the lotto. Oh, now. Go get your phone now. Cause I'm in a zone now. This is my town. Turn off the lights now. Cause I'm shutting shit down.
All right, we're back. This is Corey with the Black Tea Sip. We're playing independent artists. So if you have or know someone that wants to have their music played, please have them email it to talk, T-A-L-K, because that's what I do, baby, at talkblackteasip@gmail.com. So listen, we are unpacking the R. Kelly. So I have the opportunity to kind of piece together through the courtesy of the Associated Press this this long-standing R. Kelly rumor that was really not a rumor, it was true. And my friend Tate, who also hosts a show called TIMI, I'm sorry about that, Tate News, you should check him out. He's from Chicago, and he says, oh, it was always the story. They knew that Aura was a sexual deviant, much like Weinstein. He wasn't able to get away with it quite as long as Weinstein. I wonder why that is. I have some ideas. But he was able to get away with it long enough, far too long for someone to turn a blind eye, the police, the FBI. And so if you're just joining us, we are now in 2007. 2006, Carrie Kelly is asked by R. Kelly to say he's the guy in the video so that he can be, so that he will accept a charge of child exploitation, child pornography, endangerment to a child. I'm just off the top of my head, I can imagine the charges that were racking up. He asked his brother to do it for a measly $50,000 and a record deal. Well, now, how he gonna get a record deal if he's in the penitentiary? But he can't read and write, so maybe he can't think good too. He just believe he can fly, and that's all it takes. Delusional and great keyboard strokes. Maybe that's all it takes. 2008, the child pornography, right after the Double Up album comes out in 2007, 2008, May 9th, the child pornography trial begins. Okay, so this is the first time he's actually gone to trial. Remember, because the case has been dropped previously. June 13, 2008, Kelly is acquitted after a fast jury deliberations. And it makes you wonder, how did that happen? It reminds me of the John Grisham book, Runaway Jury. If you haven't seen that, they put somebody as a foreman on the jury, and he manipulates the jury, and he's able to get the verdict for the plaintiff. I don't know. For some reason, that just came to my mind when I was going through this, and it said that that he was acquitted, and it was a very fast deliberation by the jury. 2009, January 8th, Kelly and Andrea confirmed that they are in fact divorced. Now, Andrea Lee is his wife, that they have 3 children together. July 12th, 2011. Crane's Chicago Business reports a $2.9 million foreclosure was filed on Kelly's suburban Chicago mansion. Spokesperson says Kelly is not having financial trouble. So this is another time I have to pause for the cause and ask, who is involved in this man's life? The property is foreclosed on, but he's not having financial trouble. If he didn't want the house, he would have reasonably sold it. I mean, it would have sold as R. Kelly's house. This seems strange to me. March 21st, 2012, Kelly announces he is reviving a video series, Trapped in the Closet, that eventually becomes a rap opera about a web of sexual deceit. Wonder how he came up with that. There is talk of a Broadway show that never happened. June 15, 2012, the Chicago Sun-Times reports Kelly owes the IRS more than $4.8 million, but he's not having financial trouble. June 27, 2012, there's a published autobiography, Solar Coaster, The Diary of Me, focusing on R. Kelly's creative and family life. He's divorced, and he asked his brother to take the file for $50,000 in a record deal that he couldn't record on because he's in a penitentiary. Well, maybe they were gonna do him like they did Shine. Remember Shine did that? I just remember a song, but maybe it was an album where he was, it was kind of muffled, and Puffy tried to like hook it up and make it sound good, and he was rapping about being in a penitentiary. Okay, wait a minute. I mean, I try to help the babies. I really do. In March 18, 2013. The mansion, once valued at more than $5 million, sells at auction for $950,000. That's devastating, even for Aura. 2017, BuzzFeed reports on parents claim that Kelly brainwashed their daughters. Activists launched the hashtag Mute R. Kelly movement, calling for boycotts of his music. This is in 2017. I just heard somebody playing his song on the radio like a couple of days ago before the conviction. I'm just saying. February 13, 2018, Kelly is convicted from two Atlanta area homes. Evicted. I'm rushing it. Kelly is evicted from two Atlanta area homes over more than $31,000 of unpaid rent. Now, I don't know if these were the sex dens or if it was I don't understand what was going on there. Like I was trying to piece it together and give y'all some. Look, let me just shrug my shoulders. I don't know why the man wasn't paying his rent. And I wonder if he was like holding these girls in these places. And I do remember vaguely them talking about the fact that R. Kelly would transfer them to place and ooh, child. Okay, April 2018. Time's Up campaign joins Mute R. Kelly and pushes for an investigation. Kelly's camp responds, "We will," and this is a direct quote, "we will vigorously resist this attempted public lynching of a black man who has made extraordinary contributions to our culture." Whoever wrote that wish they could die, because that is horrible. You wanted to tie race into it, and this man is a sexual deviant. And they've known for years he was a sexual deviant. See, that's why I say Kelly did not do this alone. And there should be some eyes on some people who assisted, who enabled, who created the environment. Because R. Kelly was not loading these girls up and moving them from place to place. R. Kelly was not. He was traveling. He was touring. He was going on other dates with other women, pretending he was a good person. Someone held those girls hostage. Where are those indictments? All right, y'all, mull that over. 2018, Spotify cuts R. Kelly's music from its playlist. Apple and Pandora soon stop promoting his music. May 21st, 2018, Faith Rogers, 20 years old, sues R. Kelly alleging sexual battery, mental and verbal abuse, and of knowingly inflicting her with herpes. She was the girl who she's from Dallas, by the way. She's the girl that father was a preacher, and then she got hooked up with R. Kelly, and all these things happened to her. She did the interview on Channel 8 News with Robin Roberts, because on Channel 8 they don't have no news. They just have gossip and innuendo. And then George Stephanopoulos, bless his heart, he hops up in that chair and, because he can't make it without a little step ladder. And he hops up in that chair and he tries to do some real news talking about politics. But, baby, they don't have no news on Channel 8. So she did, Channel 8 for me. It's ABC for other people. She did the interview and talked about it. And she asked her, did you not hear these things about him? People are turn a blind eye, but then they realize it's true. So she was fed up. Her dad, who is a pastor, and mother were able to get her out the situation. And that's why I said, he really tries to get people that were damaged. There's a girl that's on a documentary that says that R. Kelly saw the damage in her, and she saw the damage in him, and that's how they hooked up. Same thing about Slick Rick, the last woman he was with. One of the last, I should say, talks about the damage, brokenness, and that appealed to her because she was damaged and broken. These deviants look for women that are not going to fight back. They look for women that are damaged and broken. Talk to your daughters. January 3rd, 2019, Lifetime airs Surviving R. Kelly, revisiting old allegations and airing new ones. It follows 2018's R. Kelly Sex, Girls, and Videotapes that was on the BBC. So everybody's getting wind of him, and everybody's paying attention, but nobody's really acting. Because at some point, the FBI knows that these things, they've been getting all of these, they know the rumors. Is Chicago, Florida, wherever, police department not shooting this up to the FBI? I don't believe that's possible. We have sex trafficking. We have sexual exploitation. Even if he was acquitted, looks like to me they would have at some point stepped in and attempted to see if these allegations are true. No, nothing happens. All right. January 9, 2019, Lady Gaga says she will remove the 2013 duet with Kelly from streaming services. Okay. All right. But you do know this is post Harvey Weinstein. Aha. There you go. They got one. They got to get one of ours. I'm just saying. It's equity. They lining it up, so it can look all even, parallel. You know what I mean? Because he should have been gone a long time ago. But so should Harvey Weinstein. So I'm going to not touch that anymore. January 21st, 2019, news reports say Kelly and his label, Sony subsidiary RCA Records, part ways. They have like a business divorce. Fellow musicians, including Celine Dion, further distanced themselves from R. Kelly. So now he's like a musical pariah, the one that has given so much to the culture. February 6, 2019, Kelly tweets about a new tour in Australia, New Zealand, and Sri Lanka and deletes it following backlash. February 14th, the day of love, 2019. Attorney Michael Avenatti, he's in jail now, says he gave Chicago prosecutors new video evidence of Kelly with a girl. This is the same guy that, remember, tried to extort money for Stormy Daniels, the prostitute that slept with y'all's President Trump. And then he tried to do something with Nike and some athlete, and Nike reported him to the FBI, and they snatched him right on off the street, baby, threw him in the jailhouse. So he probably a jailhouse lawyer for real, pun intended. Boom, boom. Well, so he said he gave the FBI money and gave him video so that they could snatch R. Kelly up sooner. February 22nd, 2019, Kelly is arrested and charged with 10 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One less than 11, one more than 9. 10 counts of aggravated sexual abuse. February 25th, 2019, Kelly pleads not guilty, post bail, and is released from Chicago jail. Now, I can't remember if there's a woman in Atlanta that owns a couple of very successful daycares, and she was one of R. Kelly's cohorts, and she is the one that put up the money for the bail, if I'm not mistaken. So now you have to ask yourself the question, the same way Robin Quivers, for those of you that were here for the 11 o'clock hour when we talked about Howard Stone, would allow these things to be said about his people. This woman would allow these things to be done and then bail him out, knowing that he is damaging young girls and women. March 2019, in a CBS interview, Kelly denies sexual abuse charges. Authorities in Illinois take Kelly into custody after he tells a judge he can't pay $161,000 in back child support. Now, the CBS interview was with Gayle King. You remember he was like ranting and raving and acting like a banshee, a pure fool, and Gayle was just sitting there very composed, and everybody wanted to say, oh, she was so composed, she was so sophisticated. No, Gayle was scared and she didn't get out that chair. No, no tea, no shade. I kind of like Gayle a little bit. And but she was afraid. Because, it was a very harrowing experience. He's screaming and hollering. He's saying he's fighting for his life. He's fighting for his life because he's broke and having to get money from the daycare lady to get out of jail because he's on his way to the penitentiary. And so, that's the interview with Gayle, 2019, March. May 30th, 2019, Kelly is charged with 11 new counts. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 counts in Chicago. In Chicago, there's 10 aggravated sexual abuse, February. Then they came back in May and put 11 new counts on him in Chicago. That is 21 counts involving a woman who accused him of abusing her when she was underage. Now, here is the mantra for Kelly. They're all underage. The majority of them. He either gets with them when they're underage and grooms them, because that's also part of a pedophile. That's also part of a deviant, a sexual predator. They get women and then they want to groom them. They want to mold them. Remember I talked about the book, Daddy's Little Girl? I told you I was 91 pages, me and my girl read. We were like, go. Who could finish first? Girl, let's talk about it. In that book, the young woman, and you never get her name, the young woman talks about the fact that she became very friendly with one of the security guards. And in that moment, R. Kelly then realizes there's a connection between them. When the guy makes a statement about her to R. Kelly, when R. Kelly makes a statement to the guy about her, the security guard says she's not ready for that yet. And in that statement, she wonders what that means. She later comes to find out that there is a moment where she is intimate with the security guard. She now feels a connection to him. And, you know, you look for love in all the wrong places. This girl is isolated, abused. He won't let her call her grandma. Like, her grandmother dies, and he won't even, and the cousins call to let him know, and he never tells her that the woman that raised her, that was very worried about her, and was trying to get her home, that woman dies, he never tells her. Psychological abuse. Well, he also lets her be used by the security guard. And there is a moment in there where there is a homosexual act between R. Kelly and the security guard while one is actually with her. This, you know, look here, people do whatever they want to do in their bedrooms. I'm just saying, the picture of it is way too much for me. That's all I'm going to say. But that's in the book, because I told you I read it in one night. So with that being said, 21 counts. July 11, 2019, Kelly is indicted in Chicago on federal charges, including child pornography. Oh, child pornography? Well, didn't he walk away from the child pornography case when he tried to get his brother to accept $50,000 and a record deal from the jailhouse? Oh, my goodness, sexual and child pornography. Who would ever thunk it? Everybody would have thunk it before now. Look at all the women that have been damaged because of the inaction of authorities that are supposed to protect and serve. Let me not get on my soapbox just yet. It's under here, though. It's under the table. I mean, I can pull it out anytime. Y'all just let me know. I got to take a break. We're going to start with 2019, July 11th. This is Corbett the Black Tea Sip. We ain't done yet, babies. We got to get to 2021 in a minute.
Now available, T.H. Moore's newest novel, titled I Am, follows a young African-American couple who are forced to pick up the pieces of their marriage after the violent loss of their young godson at the hands of a local white policeman. The loss sparks not only their community's anger, but also the rage of a vigilante who initiates a nationwide killing spree targeted at corrupt police officers. New York Times best-selling author Omar Tyree praises T.H. Moore's new novel as an audacious story and read. Dr. Christopher C. Irving, CEO of the Miller Institute for Leadership and Diversity in America, calls it a daring story. I Am by T.H. Moore, now available at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and at thmoore.com.
I've been waiting to share my love for such a long, long time, and the thought of loving you, it makes me smile. But I must be sure that this is really worth my while. Can I trust that you will always make me feel amazing? Baby, our love's contagious. We love the stages. This love we're making is fire. I take hits to go higher. Know that off just one kiss, I miss fire. Run, I saw Cupid with a gun. We make music and use it when it comes. We didn't choose it, no proof. We get it done. The mood is setting store for sun. So baby, have a little fun.
Gorgeous, Miss Flawless, rule of the queendom. Truly knows what it takes to help and build a kingdom. Fly as a mother, but the lady stay grounded. Her ass ain't the only thing that be well-rounded. Strength of flow, Evans, dope is Miss Huxtable. The lady that you don't mind giving your loving to. You deserve a toast. Can I have this first dance? Met 3 times, I feel it's my last. Can I be your Isley brother? You my sister's ledge. Arousing my mental, baby, giving me head. Over your head, eyes above your breast. First order of business, praise and respect. Your grind is an art, hardly duplicated. Vivid as Van Gogh, Rembrandt can't paint it. Take me to new floors. Thank you for the elevate, pushing me higher. Thank you for the levitate.
And this is more than a dedication. Sacred love is a celebration. This is made from when you feel you can't make it. I'll build a safe haven, a place you can run when it's raining. I'll come when it's raining. Baby, keep a lookout for the sun. And maybe we can stay forever young and play forever until the moon. In love without wanting. So many never know it where we from. But I promise if you hold hold on, things will get better, be strong. You never have to go at it alone. I know that it's a lot of temptation, a lot of trouble out there, but I swear that I'll be here when you get home. So baby, take the long way. Let your light shine, let your song play. Gonna speak your mind, lemonade, go Beyonce. I love your innocence, I give the world to you one day. Wake up every morning, pray for you, then I say, amazing.
Baby, your love's contagious. We love the stages. This love we're making is fire. I take hits to go higher. Know that love just one kiss, I misfire. Run. I saw Cupid with a gun. We make music and use it when it comes. We didn't choose it, but prove we get it done. The mood is setting, so it's the sun. So baby, have a little fun. I like how you make me feel like this love could be so real. You and me.
All right, and we're back. This is Corey with the Black Tea Sip. If you're just joining us, we are unpacking R. Kelly through a timeline, talking about the inaction of those that are supposed to protect and serve that have allowed R. Kelly to damage young women that we know of from the dawn of Aaliyah in 1994, and I think we just got to 2019. So he's just now facing charges in 2019. 21 charges in Chicago State Court, and then he gets indicted in Chicago on federal charges, including child pornography. Separate federal indictment in New York includes charges of racketeering, and he is again arrested in the Chi. July 16, 2019, judge orders Kelly held without bond. So you can keep your daycare money, lady, in Atlanta. He can't get out. She posted that $1 million bond for him. I do not understand. But you know, my dad used to say, if you understand it, there's something wrong with you. Clearly, there's nothing wrong with me. Now, August 2nd, 2019, Kelly pleads not guilty to sexually abusing women and girls who attended his concerts. His lawyers called them disgruntled groupies. Well, that's one way to call somebody and tell them they ain't poop. August 5th, 2019, Kelly is charged in Minnesota with soliciting a 17-year-old girl. You know, he's not, for lack of a better term, an academic. Maybe he didn't realize that 17 is underage. Oh, well, never mind. Let's not give him the benefit of the doubt. August 2nd, 2019, Kelly is denied bail in his New York City case. New York, Minnesota, Chicago, Florida. All of these places have charged him, and now he's being held to face these charges. Finally, December 5th, 2019, Kelly is charged with paying a bribe in exchange for a fraudulent identification document a day before he married Aaliyah. Remember I kept bringing up Aaliyah? This is why. I always tie it together for you. He later pleads not guilty to that. Now, I don't really know how they reached back. I'm just going to use the old folks term. Not reach, but I want you to understand something. Retch is a technical term. If you retch back, like you like, remember the Plastic Man and the arm would like go way far? That's what happens when you retch back. Not reach, you retch. So they retched all the way back to 1994. But see how? What's done in the dark, babies. Then, March 5th, 2020, Kelly pleads not guilty in Chicago to an updated federal indictment that includes a new accuser. They coming out the woodworks like the roaches y'all were trying to avoid in the housing projects, Arbor. August 12, 2020, charges announced against 3 men accused of threatening and intimidating women who accused Kelly of abuse. He didn't do it alone. August 14, 2020, Kelly's manager is arrested in California on charges that he threatened a shooting at a Manhattan theater 2 years before, forcing the cancellation of a screening of the documentary about allegations against R. Kelly. He didn't do it alone. July 24, 2021, federal prosecutors say Kelly had sexual contact with a boy. Remember I told you in the book that there was a homosexual act that took place? While one of them was with the woman and R. Kelly, they were all patched up in the room together. Had sexual contact with the boy in addition to girls, and the government wants trial jurors to hear those claims. August 8, 2021, opening statements begin in Kelly's federal trial in New York. September 2021, jury begins deliberating in New York trial, even as trial dates in Illinois and Minnesota cases remain to be set. September 27th, 2021, jury finds R. Kelly guilty of sex trafficking and violating the Mann Act, which makes it illegal to take anyone across state lines for any immoral purpose. He still faces charges in other states, R. Kelly. But you get to see how people just, did nothing. Just allowed it to ensue and continue and fester, and it was like a cancer. There are 14 alleged underlying acts were associated with the racketeering charge. Remember I talked about racketeering before, and I said that's a charge like they threw at Al Capone? The jury found that the government had proved 12 of the 14 acts, which involved 5 victims, which included the singer Aaliyah, as well as women named Stephanie, Jerhonda, Pace, Jane, and Faith. Remember, Faith was the girl who did the interview with Robin Roberts. 2 acts associated with an alleged victim named Sonja were not proved. Most alleged victims went by their first names or pseudonyms. So when you start to look this up on your own, the government needed to prove proof of only 2 of the racketeering acts for a guilty charge, which he received. This is how this was allowed to fester and to go on, and nothing was done. And that, to me, is the most egregious part of this, that all of this time people knew. And let's say Avenatti, the lawyer that's now jailhouse lawyer, that went against Trump, lost, child. Him and Cohen, they lost. But all of that happened, and it was a shrugging of the shoulders until a hashtag could be born. So listen, you out here messing with people and doing things to folks, don't let them get a hashtag on you, because a hashtag will send you all the way to the penitentiary. Ask Aura. He cannot fly. He believes he can, but he cannot. Okay, I want to get to the South Lake Carol thing. I'm going to play this video, and I'm going to try to make sure that we also cover the government shutdown. I just want to touch on that briefly so that you guys know what's going on. It's Coy.
If you already follow us, you may have already heard about the NBC podcast called South Lake, which is about the racism and discrimination happening here in our hometown, South Lake, Texas, and specifically in our school system, Carroll ISD. It's a really tough listen, but it's so good. You should really check it out. It was #1 the other day. I think now it's #2, but anyways, what this video is about. Following the release of that podcast, our school board received this email. Hello, Carroll Independent School District Board of Trustee members. With all the accusations from CISD members of systemic racism against blacks and other minorities not supported by facts, there's a growing movement to have Thank You White People Day. White people created the very high standard of living for all races in the USA to enjoy. They allowed non-whites from all over the world to immigrate to the USA. By 2044, whites will no longer be the majority in the highly advanced country they created. Extremely generous of them. Ubiquitous phrase, people of color, intentionally divides society and marginalizes white people, Caucasians in one group and everyone else in another. White's a color. White has 52 shades. They also created the affirmative action program in the 1960s so companies could hire blacks based on their skin color and colleges could enroll blacks based on their skin color. Due to all the inaccurate information about white people, the most generous race in the world, perhaps Carroll Independent School District can create a Thank You White People Day to celebrate their enormous generosity. They've allowed millions of poor non-white immigrants, expensive, from all over the world to immigrate to their country and enjoy a high standard of living, even though they're going to become a minority in the United States. Best, Brian Jenkins.
To play that because if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the DF Dub, or if you're following this South Lake Carroll incident, I had Eric Ransom, who is married to my very dear friend Sharonda, shout out to the Ransoms, and he was very instrumental in pushing this diversity and inclusion thing. And with that, we got screen. Oh, with that, they shut it down. I mean, they went to court to shut it down. And I think it's really important for you to hear that is the mindset of a lot of people, the most generous race in the world that allowed people to come here. People of the African diaspora that are here and that came in and are labeled as African American, that's mostly Jesse Jackson, but labeled as African American, did not get a choice to come here. So That's ridiculous. It said it was a ubiquitous phrase to say people of color. Well, that phrase came about because we wanted to pull all other races into this fight of discrimination and justice with us. And so people of color, now it is called BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color, because you are now separating Black and Indigenous and other people of color because racism is leveled. And I talked about racism 101 on this show before, and perhaps I should do it again so that you're equipped to go to work and deal with the water cooler conversations. Perhaps I should do it again. I think it's severely important to say that it is this mindset that is shutting down this critical race theory that you cannot talk about in schools. And because you cannot talk about critical race theory, you can't help delineate a path to help people understand when people are saying no justice, no peace. When people are talking about redlining, and now we're in the redistricting and drawing out the lines and cutting out certain areas that typically vote Democrat or are considered BIPOC neighborhoods. All of these things play into why critical race theory should not be taught, because if you start to tell people the truth and you stop whitewashing it and you start to have expressions of truth, you help people understand why people feel a certain way. Well, I was, held at gunpoint because I thought I was 16 because I was Black, because they wouldn't have done a white girl that way. And here is someone, and she's talking about it, and she took the TikTok for it because she's saying, this is ridiculous. But in 2018, this fight in Southlake occurs because there was this thing about, what they were dressing like. Shortly thereafter, there was a school, Allen ISD, where they were actually auctioning off their Black classmates. I'm not sure what needs to happen for children to care for one another, but I do know that we need to get rid of Hot Wheels and his cronies in the state of Texas because they are deathly afraid that in 2045, so now they're saying 2044. When we started this show, Angela and I started working together, we talked about the date was 2045. Now it's 2044. And they're not talking about that they will no longer become the minority, that they will no longer be the majority. They are afraid that Mexican Americans will be the majority. That is the real fear. So I wanted you to see that and hear about that. I want to talk about this government shutdown before we get out of here, because we go through this every few years. So Thursday night, Joe Biden signed the Congress stoppage funding bill so that the government would not shut down. So the government has bills, and then they have to be able to pay on the interest of the bills, basically, to keep the government open. And if they default on it, then the country defaults, and we owe Russia, Mexico, and someone else. Those are like the top three, and I'm sorry I can't remember the third. So when Donald Trump was making these ridiculous statements about Mexico was going to pay for the wall, that's why the Mexican president was like laughing, like, dude, you owe me money, and you showed up with a new outfit. So the truth is, there's some ridiculousness in the way our government is being handled, because right now, those of you that like AOC and are part of this Bernie progressive movement, they feel like the time is now to get the things that they want. So here we are. We're open until December 3rd of this year. And then they'll have to try to, between now and December 3rd, they're going to have to try to work out a deal so that we don't default again. We've been going through this every few months. Well, let me say this. We've been dealing with this every year for many years. And it's always a few months. And the government has stopped before. Remember that? The government actually shut down, and people that work for the government, IRS and the marshals and FBI, they didn't get a check. If you're a federal prosecutor, you didn't get a check. If you the lady that accept that, that filled out the form and somebody could take it back so that you could meet with the IRS agent, they didn't get paid. And that went on for some weeks. So that's where we are with the government, and they are trying to ensure that parents get money for children care, or I don't want to just say daycare, because if you got a 10-year-old and you're not comfortable with their child staying at home by themselves, that's not daycare. You need child care. And so that's part of what they're demanding, and they are willing to let the government shut down so that they could get those things. They want money for people who have been affected by COVID. And there are a lot of things. There are a lot of good things. The problem that I have is we shouldn't risk someone else's paycheck to put them in the very same position. It's in the words of Sarah Palin, it's back-assward. All right, that's my time. This is Coy with the Black Tea Sip. We'll do it again. Same bat time, same bat channel. Something else will happen in the world, and I'll bring it to you live, unadulterated, and full of that Coy funk. F-U-N-K. Don't get it twisted. All right, I'll see you again. Same bat time, same bat channel. Love, peace, and hair grease. In a minute, babies. And this is Coy.
All right, you melanated beauties, this is Coy with your Black Tea Sip every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. where we sip power to pour truth. We talk about it all, the state of the Black Union, politics, entertainment, you, me, and everything in between. Join me on Fridays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. where we sip power to pour truth. Join me and we'll rap a taste about all the things that matter to me and to you. Coy with your Black Tea Sip, diamonds, pearls, and jerry curls. Looking forward to seeing you.
On FishbowlRadioNetwork.com. Jump in.